Hello and welcome to Data Skills Live. My name is Craig, I'm a computer scientist, I'm a gadget geek and I'm interested in all things tech. And you're about to get hands-on and learn some data science skills in this interactive activity. Hello Daniel.
Hello Craig, hello everyone. I'm Daniel, I'm an engineer with a number addiction. We're here in our Gorilla National Digital Portrait Gallery in Glasgow. Before we get started, Craig, what's data science?
Well, data science is the set of skills that people need to be able to ask questions, collect, analyse, interpret and communicate about data.
We need more people that know how computers use data. And we also need more people that know how to use data to help humans make better decisions.
And today, you're going to join our data science team and create a data-driven piece of digital art. That art is going to be about the person that knows you best, you. So are you looking forward to becoming a digital artist today, Daniel?
I am indeed. Data's information, it's things that we know. So it's stuff like facts, figures, measurements, or things that we've counted. Whereas data science is all about collecting data, understanding it, and then using it to make decisions.
That's right, Daniel, and you can use data science skills to work in all sorts of different areas. So in healthcare, agriculture, finance, tourism, the public sector, and the creative industries. And that's kind of what we're going to be working on today, working on a creative project. And having the skills to understand data and use it to make good decisions will be important in many jobs across all these sectors.
Yeah, there's loads of job opportunities in this area. According to Skills Development Scotland, there's over 3,000 data scientists employed in Scotland. And the average salary for one of these data scientists is around £52,000 per year. That's about double the average salary for any job, so it's a really well-paid area to work in too. Today, we are joined by a whole network of data scientists. That's you. And you're joining us from all over the world.
Yeah, let's say hello to some of you. So when I say your name, give us a cheer in your class or your group, and it has to be nice and loud so Daniel and I can hear you from the digital self-portrait gallery. So let's say hello to Perth High. Hello, Perth High. Hello to Stirling High School. Hello to Prestwick Academy, Braes High School, Lanark Grammar, Mackay Academy, and one more. Let's do one more for now. Let's have Kelvinside Academy. So there'll be more chances for you if you send in your selfies to get you and your school a shout out to.
It's not just schools we've got signed up. We've got people joining us from all over the world. So hello to the City University of New York. Hello to Alexandra College in Ireland. Hello to University College in Copenhagen. And also a warm welcome to Sacred Heart School of Halifax in Canada. If you're a teacher or a parent, you can follow us on Twitter at Data Schools and at Digital World HQ. And you can tweet along with us today using the hashtag DataSkillsLive.
All right, Daniel, let's get ready. Let's get creative with code.
What is a self-portrait? It's a representation of you. When we make a self-portrait, we choose what we want to show of ourselves. It could be a pencil drawing, a still photograph, or any form of visual expression of yourself. Many self-portraits are realistic visual representations. They look like us. We can also have abstract self-portraits. An abstract self-portrait isn't necessarily how you look in real life. Instead, it might use shapes, colours, and forms to represent you. This is what we're going to do today. Create an abstract self-portrait of ourselves through data. We will use code to draw a self-portrait using personal data. We'll use data visualisation software to paint an abstract drawing based on personal data you choose to share. Rather than using paint or pencils, you'll use computer code. You write the code and it makes marks on the canvas. These marks might be lines, shapes, or patterns. Let's get started on our data creating abstract self-portraits. How do I look?
Okay, let's get started. So we're really looking forward to seeing what you create today. So first of all, make sure you're on the right page. You want to go to cyberskillslesson.com, and then you're going to click the button that says Start the Live Lesson.
Yep, so head to cyberskillslesson.com in any web browser and then choose to start the live lesson at the top. And then you'll be taken to a web page. Just follow the instructions that are on the screen. And in fact, I'm going to share my screen just now just to show you how to get started. Yeah, so here's what the activity looks like. This is the web page that you need to go to. And I'm going to show you how you get started with your first selfie. So we've got a bit of background information for you to read, but I'm going to skip down to the bit where you fill in a bit of information about who you are. So first name, I'm going to type in Daniel, and the school or group name, I'm going to type in Strathclyde because that's where I went to university. So Strathclyde, cool. We've got our first selfie here, and here's the code for it. We've already written it for you. What you need to do is press play, and that runs the code, and you can see the selfie it generates on the right hand side. Underneath the selfie, we've got some instructions for you to read and follow. I'm going to let you do that yourself. And once you've finished, we've got a button that says send your selfie. When you press that, that will send your selfie to us so we can look at it in our virtual portrait gallery. So don't worry if you've just joined, we're just getting started now. Keep following those instructions to complete and customize your first data selfie.
I can tell that Digital David, who's curating all our selfies, is already getting some selfies sent in. So keep working on them. If you've just started, follow those instructions as well. So we're lucky to have some real experts joining us today as well. So let's bring in Jen, who's a creative technologist, and she teaches interaction design at Glasgow School of Art. Hello, Jen. How are you?
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Digital Portrait Gallery. So tell us, what's a self-portrait?
Yeah, so a self-portrait, it could be any way of expressing what makes you, really. You can use lots of different methods to give others a bit of an insight into your personality. So you might be familiar with some more traditional methods like photography or painting, but really you can use any creative materials or creative means that you like.
Daniel, what tool is it we're using today?
Yeah, so rather than using paint or pencils, you're going to be using computer code. And P5GS is like a digital sketchbook. So you write the code and then it makes marks on the canvas. And each of these marks that are made by your code, they represent something significant to you. So it might represent the year you're born, or your favorite hobby, or the color of your hair or eyes. And these marks, they might be lines, shapes, patterns. They don't have to look like the thing they represent. They could be anything.
So what's so good about the tool that we are using today, which is P5GS? What's so good about it, Jen?
Yeah, so P5, it's a really great tool because it's aimed at creative people like you or I or people on this stream. It's in a nice, friendly language, and lots of the words that we use to put shapes and text on the screen, they're already words that we have in common with art and design, like sketch or sketchbook or line or square, things like this. So we already use these words to describe creative actions, and we're just going to use them again within P5 to make some nice pictures.
Excellent. I know a lot of you are already starting to create your first selfie. So remember, when you're finished, you need to hit the button that says send your selfie. And that's going to send a copy of your selfie, your data selfie, to us. And we're going to be able to show some of them off in our digital gallery. So before we do that, I think our gallery is just being curated at a moment. Why don't we have a look at one or two to begin with? So Jen, are you happy to move with us into our digital gallery?
Sure, yeah.
At this point, we'd also want to welcome Kate, who is going to be, we'll talk to you in a minute, Kate, as well. Thanks for joining us.
It's okay.
Oh, so what have we got here first?
So I can see we have one from Jay at Prestwick Academy. And I can see that Jay's 13 years old and Jay is really tall. Jay is 2.2 meters tall. What else can you tell from this selfie, Craig?
Wow.
Well, it looks like at the moment I can tell he's 13, but also those colours, you can change those colours to match your eyes and to match your socks. So I think that's probably what he's going to move on to doing next, unless he has yellow eyes. Possibly.
Possibly. Shall we take a look at another?
Let's have a look at another selfie. Oh.
Ooh.
What can you tell us about this one, Daniel?
So this one is from Claire at New College, Lanarkshire. And I can see that Claire is 156 centimeters tall. And I think Claire has green eyes.
There's another circle going round the outside. Do we know what that circle represents?
So that circle, that means that Claire is shorter than Harry Styles. So that's how me and Craig like to discuss our heights. So are you shorter than Harry Styles? Or like we want to treat everything as a true false, basically. So that's what that means. What do you think of the colours that have been chosen in this one, Jen?
Yeah, these are quite good, bold colours. Did you say it's green eyes? So blue represents socks then, or potentially blue could represent socks in a couple of minutes' time. Yeah, I'd like to see how people. I think socks are a great way of expressing our personalities. So I'm excited to see people's how we use that as a vessel with some pretty bold colour palettes in a minute.
Kate, for some people this will be their first experience maybe creating digital art, but also using code of any sort as well. What do you think of some of these initial first selfies that we're getting sent in?
Fantastic. They've obviously got the hang of figuring out where in the code they need to change, which is great.
Fantastic.
I think we've got one more we can take a look at.
Great.
So this one's from Jack at Stirling High School. And it looks like Jack's socks are kind of like a teal colour. What colour are your socks, Craig?
It's purple.
Purple.
Purple, yeah. I really like the background colour that Jack's got as well. That bright orange, starting to set off the circles inside it as well.
Yeah, strong colours.
So this is really good. We can tell that a lot of you are starting to send in your first selfies to us. And thanks for people who are joining from Dumfries as well. I can actually start to see some of your selfies coming in too. Keep working on that. Why don't we, Daniel, should we start moving on to the next activity as well? So you'll still be able to work on that selfie, but activity 2, let's have a look at something a bit different.
Yes, so let's move on to our next data selfie, and let's visualize some more data about you. So this time we're going to make a data visualization which represents a typical day in your life. So this one looks a bit like a barcode, which is another way of presenting data. So follow the instructions on the screen and create your selfie. And then again, once you're finished, you can send your selfie to us and we'll take a look at some in our gallery in a few minutes' time.
So scroll down your screen, you should now see your activity 2. This is going to allow you to create a different selfie. And then what to do is follow the instructions, change the code, and then hit the send the selfie button, and that will send a copy of it to us. So in a couple of minutes' time, we'll showcase some more of your selfies. But for now, let's meet our other guest who we just met a second or two ago. So this is Kate. She's a computing science teacher and she's working with the Data Education in Schools team, which is part of the University of Edinburgh. Hello, Kate. How are you today?
I'm grand. Loving seeing all these selfies so far.
Yeah, it feels more personal when you start to get to see people's information in this way. So this is all about data visualization. Kate, why do we visualize data?
So we can use spreadsheets like Excel, but it's really difficult for our brains to understand lots and lots of numbers. So when we turn those numbers into charts and graphs, we find it easier to spot the patterns in the data. So our eyes can see the difference between shapes and colours, or between different widths and lengths of line, but we find it difficult to scan across colours and figure out what's happening without making it visual. So visualising data lets us try and predict the future as well. We can see trends. So it might be seeing the popularity of an artist on Spotify going up in one part of the country, or seeing sales of chocolate go down in one supermarket but not in the other. So we can see those lines and those trends. And turning data into something visual lets us compare data. So like comparing selfies in your class with the rest of your classmates and see what you've got in common and what's different.
I think that was really obvious when we looked at those first couple of selfies. Like immediately you could get a sense of, okay, is one person taller than someone else? You were getting a comparison between the sort of eye color as well. You know, when I think of things like data visualization, what I think of is things like bar charts and graphs and these sort of, are they like the traditional ways, or is what we're doing actually done in real life as well, or is this just for fun, is just for play?
Oh, absolutely. So companies and academics in research use charts and graphs like bar charts and line charts, all sorts of different charts, more than a dozen different types of ways of visualizing data formally, but we can also represent data in lots of different ways. We can use pictures and patterns to show different ways of representing data. So we don't have to use traditional bars. We could use leaves or bars of chocolate to show the difference of the supermarket's sales, for example, or musical notes at different places on a line to show the Spotify sales, for example.
I think that makes it more appealing for the sort of like person who's going to be reading the data or like reading the chart as well. Like I suppose if you make it more interesting and sort of eye-catching maybe as well, that would be one way that you might tell the story of that data as well.
Absolutely, yes.
So we're using P5JS, but there's other tools out there that people can use to visualize things. Even the most basic tools. What have you tried out, or what have you played around with?
I mean, you can even use not a computer. You can draw data visualizations. So there's some lovely work called Dear Data, where a couple of data scientists sent each other a visualization on the back of a postcard each week, and so they gathered data and drew their visualization depending on what the information is. So it might be the clothes in their wardrobe, and so they drew pictures of clothes, sort of depending on how many t-shirts they had and how many jumpers they had. They would represent that in different ways. So yeah, it doesn't have to involve a computer at all.
Daniel, have you ever visualized data?
I guess it's something that we do quite often and sometimes don't realize. The thing that comes to mind is like at the end of the year, you always get your Spotify Discover Weekly, and your like year in your review, and it shows you Unwrapped. That's what they call it, and
That's right.
You can see when you listen to music and stuff. But I kind of take it to the next level, and I use another website, and that lets me see graphs of the times of day I listen to music, or the types of music, the genres, and I get lots of different plots and stuff. And it's at first I thought it's just a cool, fun thing. I can just look at what I'm listening to. But actually, you can tell quite a lot, because if you know certain days of the week, I always listen to music in certain hours, you might be like, well, he's either traveling at this point, or maybe he's doing some housework because he always listens to quick music. There's lots of other information that sometimes can be hidden in data, and it's not just the numbers, but again, like Kate said, when you visualize it, you can spot these patterns that you otherwise just might not have seen.
So I think that I've just checking with Digital David that our gallery is ready to view again, and let's maybe see if we can look at some of the selfies that you've been able to send in. Join us in the gallery again.
Welcome to the gallery. And here we've got some of your selfies from this typical day example. So here we've got a selfie that's come in from Libby at Northwest Community Campus, and this is what one of their typical Saturdays looks like.
So what can we tell from this typical Saturday? What can we tell about Libby from this data visualization?
Libby is very active on a Saturday and gets a lot less sleep than I think I do on a typical weekend. Yeah, so it seems like the most popular activity that Libby does on Saturday is being active, is exercising.
Excellent.
Fab.
Any other comments from Jen or Kate about Libby's visualization?
Yeah, there's also a little bit of what looks like studying, right? So, but a good balance, it seems, of active and entertainment and studying. Entertainment nearly as equal as studying, slightly less, which is quite commendable on a Saturday.
Not very much of the shrug of whatever at the end.
Yeah.
Sounds like someone who's got their day planned out, doesn't it?
Absolutely,
Libby obviously makes the most of that weekend. She's not just sitting about. Excellent. Let's have a look at someone else then. Oh, very different here. Very different here. Who's this, Daniel?
So this is Niharika from Prestwick, and even less sleep. 0 hours of sleep.
Oh wow.
So what can we tell immediately comparing these two visualizations, Kate? What's the immediate difference that we notice?
Well, lots more shrugging of whatever. I kind of think of that as the meh category, but maybe this person is involved in something, an activity that takes up a lot of time but doesn't fit into those categories. And sometimes it's difficult for us when we're programming to figure out beforehand what the variables are going to be, what the categories are going to be. So we've maybe just missed the whatever they're involved in on Wednesdays.
And that could be, I mean, I think that's important to know about visualizing as well. Like when we're looking at that, we might make certain assumptions. So we might sort of be like, okay, well, what does that mean? Does that mean they sit about doing nothing? Does that mean they don't know what they do? But as you said, Kate, it might be that they do actually do an activity, but maybe it's like looking after someone else, or maybe it's working and not just studying, and we just don't have that as an option. So it's just coming under all other activities as well.
Maybe they're childminding or caring for somebody, and that's an overnight thing. So maybe they've classed that as their sleep. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's have a look at another selfie that's been sent into us.
Oh, this is a really colourful one.
Yeah.
This is
nice colour.
Yeah. This one's from Magda at Clyde, and this is what one of their typical Wednesdays looks like. And I can see that they've changed the colours of the different bars. So well done for finding the line of code that you have to change. So that's something that you could try doing as well as you're doing this activity. If you finish it, have a look and see what else you could change and customize. Don't worry about breaking it. There is that revert button at the top. So if it doesn't work or it doesn't do what you expect, you can press revert and it takes you back to how it was at the start.
These are brilliant. I would say immediately my first response here, it's Magda's selfie, yeah?
Yeah.
A lot of time in bed or a lot of time sleeping there. So like, is she studying at college at the moment? Where does it say what school or group is she part of?
I think it might be Clyde College.
Well, Clyde College, yeah. So maybe not as quite an early start then. So, or getting to go to bed early again. As well,
I quite
plenty of studying.
I quite like that they've swapped our sort of like shrugging thing, which was just kind of like other, to be sort of happy. I think that's a much nicer way of representing that activity. So well done for sending them in, keep them coming. But I think it might be time to introduce another data visualization or another selfie. What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, let's move on to activity 3 now. So you can use data selfies to reflect your personality as well. So what you're going to do next in activity 3 is make a data selfie that visualizes your hobbies and interests. So in this sketch, an emoji you're going to use to describe each hobby and interest. And then the number of sides on the shape around that emoji is going to tell us how much you enjoy the hobby. So the idea being the more lines, the more sides you have on the shape around your hobby, the more you enjoy it. Do you have a favourite hobby, Daniel?
Oh, good question. I think my favourite hobby is probably cycling, especially now that the weather's getting better. It's just really nice after finishing work to go out and have a nice cycle around the park or down the river or something at the end of the day. So I'd probably put that as my highest rated. So there'd be a lot of sides on that shape, I think. How about you, Craig?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, a lot of my hobbies I've not been able to do so much recently. So I like going to the cinema, going to the theatre, going out to places. So I would say that those are probably my favourite hobbies. And I would have lots of sides around those ones as well.
Yep, so follow the
Now's
instructions.
probably a good time to remind people. I know that people have already been tweeting us in as well, Daniel, but if you're a teacher or you're a parent and you want to show us how you're getting on, you can tweet us at data_schools and at Digital World HQ. You can use the hashtag #DataSkillsLive.
Yep, we've seen a few
Daniel,
coming in.
we're also on YouTube at the moment. What really should we be telling people?
Oh, could be to like and subscribe. We're about to round a big number, so that would be really helpful. And it means you'd also get notifications next time we go live for other workshops similar to this one. In the meantime, follow the instructions underneath the sketch for activity number 3. You need to think about 4 things you enjoy doing and then rate them. And then when it comes to adding in the emojis, you can either use your sort of emoji picker that you normally use, or if you don't have one handy, if you're on a computer, there's an emoji picker underneath the sketch. So you can choose an emoji and then it puts it into a text box. Just copy and paste that into wherever you want to put it in the code. So I think it's time to bring back Jen and see what hobbies she has. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Jen, it turns out there's quite a lot of people who use data to create artwork, which might be a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about generative art? Because that's something that I think you specialize in.
Yeah, so generative art, or you might have heard it sometimes called computer art as well, it has a really rich history. And I think some of the methods that overlap in generative art, you might have already seen, or you might have done yourself just by hand. So, for example, what can we do if we make some random different outcomes? Or what happens if we repeat the same thing or the same graphic over and over again? But one of the main things from generative art, or using a computer with your art, is that you can explore things more easily like that. So you can explore and automate things that actually it might take you a really long time to do by hand. And because you can do it much faster, it means you get to be more expressive quicker with these different techniques.
Jen, people might not realise that you can use computer code to create art. And in fact, one of the courses that you teach on at Glasgow School of Art covers a lot of the stuff that we're actually doing today, or it certainly might feed into some of the work created by students.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, on the interaction design undergrad at Glasgow School of Art, we bridge maybe what you might have experienced in your art classes at school with what you might have experienced in your computer classes at school. And we work with both of these materials. We like to call computers materials at the art school. So things that you might otherwise do with pencil or paint or wood or metal, we like to explore with computers. And that can mean that at the end, maybe you see a printed picture, or maybe you see a kind of light installation, or you might see a kind of kinetic motorized sculpture. There's lots of different ways to explore using computers with creative means.
I think people wouldn't necessarily realise that, if you really enjoyed studying art at school, you really enjoyed doing maths, you really enjoyed doing computing, that you could actually sort of bring these things together, learn a bit more about computing, data skills, art, and actually, make some really interesting things from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the past, maybe when you're at school, sometimes you've had to make a decision between these different disciplines. Am I going to go and do art and music and be creative, or am I going to stay with computers and sciences? But actually, these days, there's far more disciplines that join more than one of these exciting subjects up together, and you don't need to make such drastic decisions and decide between one or the other. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's give people another couple of minutes to put together their hobbies and their selfies. We're starting to get a few sent in now. We'll just give you another minute or so to work on that.
Jen, what hobbies would you include? Like, maybe give us an example of one or two that you would put in your selfie.
I think I put roller skating in. I really like roller skating. So that would go in there. Maybe I'd have to put a computer in there because I like using computers so much to make art. I think it would have to go in. It bridges into hobbies as well as work. So that's exciting. And then I'm also about to adopt a dog. So I think soon there'll be a dog in that selfie as an activity. Maybe I could train it to make computer art as well and make a nice full circle.
You need to send us videos of that, Jen.
Yeah.
I think we're ready then to, should we move into our gallery and see some of the selfies that have been sent in to us?
Yeah, I think it's time to take a look at the gallery. David, our curator, are you ready? Yep, the gallery is ready, so let's head there.
Oh. So this is a selfie from Libby, and what have we got here? So what's standing out to you, Jen and Kate? What hobbies or what can you tell me about this data visualization?
Like, do they like eating fruit? Do they like making fruit salad? Is it kiwis in particular?
Yeah, kiwi doesn't sound like a hobby, but maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Juggling them?
Yeah, we got horse riding as well up there, and coffee. I mean, that's a great hobby. I agree with coffee being a hobby. Yeah.
And we can also tell a bit about how much each person likes the hobby by the number of sides on the shape as well. So what does that tell us, for example, about the hobby that looks like books to me? That tells me that that's probably this person's favourite hobby because it's got so many sides on it as well. And they maybe like kiwis, but they wouldn't say that that's their number one hobby. Thank you very much for sending in that selfie. Let's bring up another one. This would be a good art gallery where you don't actually have to walk anywhere. Everything is just brought to you. It's just like you just summon it up.
We need a conveyor belt for next time, don't we? So this one's from Jay at Northwest College, and they've changed the colours of this one, so it's all quite monochromatic, which makes it quite appealing. So what hobbies have we got here? We've got... Is that chips or do you think it's popcorn? I can't tell.
It's popcorn.
Yeah, popcorn.
So it could be like going to the cinema, watching films.
Or eating popcorn.
Or eating popcorn, of course.
Soccer, football.
Yeah.
So, yeah, popular hobby there. And that looks like a games console controller, so gamer, basically, I think. And the bottom right.
Most of all, riding a bike. Yeah. I agree with that one.
Thanks, Jay, for sending us that in, and thanks for changing the code as well to change the colours. Remember, this is your selfie, so you can adapt it, you can change it, how you want to share this information with us.
It makes the activities really stand out. It's nice.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Okay, so what can we see in this one? Who's this from?
This one's from Ruby at Stirling High School. And this is quite a balanced one. So they like all their hobbies fairly equally. Maybe they don't want to rank them too much. But it looks like their favourite hobby is, I think that might be reading the pile of books. And then we've also got, could be playing piano or playing keyboard, or maybe just making music generally. And then we've got more popcorn, and then the sort of the hand and the pencil, that could be like writing. So maybe they're into like creative writing as well.
What have we been able to tell by even just comparing some of these visualizations? Like, what's that telling us about our audience today as well? I think that we seem to have quite a few film fans. At least a few people have listed popcorn and reading or books, or is it piling things on top of each other? But this is part of visualization because, I suppose maybe this is an art question, Jen, like where I'm looking at this and I'm inferring certain things about it. Like we look at it, we see popcorn and we think, well, that means films, but actually that doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah, and I think the very sort of first ones we were looking at, we were presuming maybe the books meant homework. But then now when we see it in this different context or environment, we think, oh, it must mean reading and enjoyment. So we totally change our interpretation of that one emoji, which is really interesting.
Excellent. Thank you for sending these in, and I can see lots more of you been sending them in as well. Daniel, I think we've got time to move on to our next activity now as well.
Yeah, so let's introduce another selfie. So this one's a bit different. This selfie lets you create a data visualization based on some secret data. So unlike our earlier sketches, it's going to be impossible for me and Craig or anyone else in the world to work out what the data is based on. So this time, what I want you to do is edit the code to say your name and your house number. But remember, you don't want to include your full address or your street name, just your house number is totally fine. And this time you're creating a data selfie that's totally, truly personal to you. You could share it with other people, but they'd never be able to work out what information is stored inside it. So keep following the instructions to investigate further. But I think this is a really interesting and slightly different selfie, Craig. How does this work?
So this data selfie uses a technique called hashing. So this is used when people want to store something secretly or send, personal information. So if you think about like when companies want to protect people's passwords, because it would be a bad idea for a company to have everyone's passwords stored in a readable format. So instead, companies, what they might actually do is calculate something that is based on the password and store that instead. So that when someone tries to log into a website, they don't necessarily ask the person to send them their password. What they might do is send them this calculated version, and then they can compare it as well. So this is similar to what you're going to be doing in this selfie, where basically you're going to be creating a bunch of circles, and the size, the position, and the color of all those circles are related to the information that you type in. But what's important is that there is no way that we could work out what sensitive or personal information you've typed in based on the selfie that you actually show us. So while you work through that, let's bring Kate back in and let's ask her a bit about data privacy. So welcome back, Kate.
Hi.
So Kate, what sort of information is stored about what data is stored about is that should maybe be kept private?
Yeah, so it's important that all your personal data is kept safe by any company that's storing it. So this might be data like your address or your phone number or location information or anything that can be used to identify you. And it also includes more sensitive data. So it might be heart rate data, health data, sleep patterns that might be taken from a smartwatch or a bracelet device. And some schools use a fingerprint system for buying your lunch. So phones might be using your information about your face, about your facial features to unlock the phone. Or they might be keeping a record of all the places you're visiting. And all this should be kept safe and secure by the companies. And sometimes companies process your data in ways that might seem helpful, but might also feel a little creepy. So they might be using facial recognition to figure out who's in all your photos. It's helpful when you want to find a picture of your cousin, but it can feel a little strange to see the company recognizing your family members in pictures. And I think it's important that we think carefully about the companies we trust that with our personal data and our sensitive data. But data can be used for good though. So it could be using your location to track if you're spending more than 15 minutes near somebody who later tests positive for COVID. Or using shared health data to try and understand more about diseases and try and cure them. Or using social media posts to track earthquakes or provide aid after natural disasters. So good can come from sharing data as well.
And the selfies that people are sending us today, it isn't the actual code or the personal data in the code that is being sent to us. We are only storing the actual selfie that's generated as well. So that's an example of something that, particularly for this selfie that people are making, someone could be typing in something really sensitive or secret that they don't want other people to know, like their house number or something like that. But because of the way that we are then treating that data, we're visualizing it, it can still be used to create art for us, but not in a way that's going to tell us what house they live at or whatever secret information it is that they're sharing about us. So that's something that we've even had to think about for this type of workshop. And in fact, why don't we see some of these data selfies now in our gallery? Because our gallery is super popular with people sending in selfies. I'm really delighted that you're all enjoying it. Let's have a look at some. Well, look at that.
Cool.
Look at that.
This is great.
So who is this from, Daniel?
This one is from Kirsty at SBRC, and I really like that Kirsty changed the background on this one to kind of like complement the colours that have been sort of randomly selected based on the secret information that Kirsty's included. And this time we just have to guess what the information was. We have no idea. There's no way that we could work it out. The only way we'd be able to know what Kirsty typed in is if we happen to type in exactly the same thing and then got the exact same picture at the end and then matched it up. We couldn't just look at the picture and then like go, that circle means A. It doesn't work like that. It's much more complicated.
Thanks, Kirsty, for sending in your selfie. Let's have a look at another one. So this is Lewis from the Northwest Community Campus. What's your initial reactions to this, Jen and Kate?
Yeah,
That's really
again, the greens are really strong and bold. It's a good colour change choice here.
That's fantastic. I really like it. You could absolutely see that up on a wall.
And if anyone does want to download their selfie, you can just click on it and hit save, and it will download a copy to your computer. So maybe in your classroom, you could have a collage of some of these selfies up on the wall. I think that would be a really nice display to create as well. What can we tell about the data that Lewis has shared with us? Well, in this case, we have no idea. Like, we don't know. We've built this in such a way that like we can't look at those circles and say, oh, that means that he lives at, you know, a house number that must be in the 200s or something like that. We don't know anything about it. All we know is that it's generated this seemingly random image, but out of that randomness, something really nice is starting to appear.
Yeah.
And it's not even as if we could measure the circle points, center points, and the size of them, because some of them are obscuring the others. So there's no way we could sort of retrospectively figure out what the data is.
Let's have a quick look at one more selfie, Daniel, before our final activities. I can also see Stirling High School and Prestwick Academy have been tweeting their selfies. Really good to do that as well. Keep going with that. Thank you very much. So who is this? This is Bob, I think, Daniel?
Yeah, I think this is Bob from Northwest Community Campus. And this one is really neat because I can't actually tell if Bob has increased the amount of circles that are shown, or maybe they've changed some of the inputs to make the circles bigger. Or maybe it's just the information that Bob's typed in has created bigger circles. We'll never know, I suppose. But I really like the kind of spread of colours in this one. Again, I can imagine, like, I can see all three of these pictures shown side by side on my screen. I could imagine you had 3 canvases on your wall, and it would look quite good. I might do that actually. Maybe in the next live lesson behind me.
Hang on, Daniel, are we going to take everyone's selfies and just like use
sell
them for our
profit?
own?
Yeah, like a big tech company.
This one kind of reminds me of party balloons. It's like sort of balloons falling down from the sky or something.
Yeah, you
Excellent.
can't really see where the background is on this one, which I think is really interesting because the data kind of takes over. I mean, some of the red, you can't tell if that's data or if that's the background.
So let's activate our final activity because we've got about 10 minutes left and I want to make sure everyone gets the chance to create this final selfie. So you're going to move on now. We're going to release the 5th selfie for you to work on, and it's your chance to make one more selfie.
Yep, so again, read through the code and change the variables, so change the values to fit your personal data. So the instructions in this one are in amongst the code at the top of it. So code your data selfie and then again, send it to us when you're ready. So this one asks for a bit more information and hopefully we get a real variety of selfies to look at in a few minutes time.
So while you work on that activity, then Kate, let's bring Kate back in. I want to ask her a bit about the project that she works on. So Kate, you're part of the Data Education in Schools team. So what is data education in schools, and how can schools or teachers or educators get involved?
Yeah, so we help schools teach about data and information handling all across the curriculum. So we've got resources and activities for teaching about beautiful data and art, or measuring physical activity with DataFit, or using data to solve problems like plastic rubbish in the playgrounds or in the oceans. And we also support schools and colleges that are teaching the National Progression Award in Data Science. And we think this is the first data science qualification for school pupils in the whole world.
So is this
really
something that
involved in it.
potentially schools could you be learning about data science at school?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, so it's a qualification at levels 4, 5, and 6, which is equivalent to National 4, National 5, and higher. And it can be taught at schools, it can be taught at colleges.
And what sort of, like, is it normally a maths department or a computing department, or does it not matter really what sort of
It doesn't matter at all. No, and we've got schools that are teaching it with computing teachers and maths teachers and geography teachers all coming together to teach the course. Some it's just a maths department that are teaching it, and some it's the computing department. So it's a really nice qualification that it can be fitted into different parts of the curriculum, different subject areas, but also it can be taught together, which is really quite fun.
Where can we go to find out more about how to get involved in this project?
So our website is dataschools.education. And if you're particularly interested in teaching the NPA in data science, you can go to teachdata.science.
Fantastic. And is any sort of upcoming events that would be worth knowing about straight away, or have you got any more seminars of that planned that might be worth shouting out?
We have a seminar on learning about a Data Nation tool, but we have regular webinars where every month or so we talk about a different curricular area and look at how data can be used in that curricular area. So yeah, so we often have events and professional learning happening. So yeah, sign up to our mailing list on the website and you can find out all about it.
So if you've enjoyed sort of getting the chance to play about with data today and creating art with it as well, then certainly checking out more ways that you could maybe consider a career in this area or studying it further. And the fact that you'll now be able to do that at schools in Scotland as well is something that's really exciting as well, and something that, you know, I think maybe when I was studying at school, if that had been an option, like if that's something that had been available, it probably would have been something that I'd considered. I don't know about you, Daniel. Would that?
Yeah.
You mentioned at the start you're a number addict, so
yeah, I think data science is a really interesting and useful subject or skill for anyone really, because it's not just kind of like looking at maths or numbers just for math's sake. You're actually solving other people's problems in different areas. So it could be you're looking at health data and you're trying to like spot trends, or it could be in geography, you're looking at, I don't know, river courses. There's so many different subjects that you can, and problems that you can solve by using data and using statistics. And it doesn't need to be really complicated maths necessarily. It could be visualizing it, like what you're doing today, that lets you spot the patterns so you know what numbers you want to look at, what could be interesting. So I think it's a really interesting subject.
So before we look at our final selfies as well, I just want to say, can we make the evaluation link visible as well? Because as soon as you've finished the activity, it would be brilliant if you could click the short evaluation form. There's a little questionnaire, and tell us what you thought of that activity. So that will appear at the very bottom of the page. So I'm just telling you that now because I know we're due to finish in a couple of minutes, and I'm about to get carried away with looking at everyone's data selfies, and I'll forget to tell you that. So I'm telling you that now to do that at the end.
There's still lots of your selfies coming in, but I think maybe we could go to the gallery and look at a couple that have come in, and then maybe some more will join.
One moment, we're just preparing the gallery.
I'll give you 30 seconds or so. So even if you're not quite finished, if you hit submit, we might show up on the screen in just a second's time. Those links that web addresses that you were talking about, Kate, we've got a link to them at the very bottom of the web page. So if you're on the page with all the activities and all the code, if you scroll to the bottom, there'll be links to data education in schools and some other different campaigns, and you can subscribe to that mailing list that Kate was talking about.
Let's move into our gallery and have a look at some of the final selfies. Wow.
Ooh.
So Daniel, who's the artist?
So this is Magda at Clyde, and there's quite a lot that we can tell from this selfie, isn't there? So maybe if we look at like one or two elements from a few different people, that might be a way that we can kind of see some more selfies this time around. So Craig,
Good idea.
do you want to kind of name something that you can tell about Magda from their selfie?
Yeah. Well, I can tell based on the shapes at the bottom left that Magda has 3 siblings. So she's part of 3 siblings. And I can also tell that because the circle is the very top, that means that she's the oldest sibling and the other 2 people are younger. So that's something that I've been able to pick out of that image there as well. I have to say it's quite a bold, like immediately looking at that, like I like the colour choices. I like what's coming through as well.
You can also tell that because it's quite cold colours, we know that they were born in winter. But they're still a morning person. We can tell that from the sun in the top left.
Let's have a look at another big selfie. Oh,
This one's from Claire at the University of Edinburgh. And this time Claire is the middle of 3 siblings. And what else can we tell? Well, we've got a blue strip in the very top right. What does that mean, Craig?
I think that means that Claire describes herself as being introverted. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've given people a binary choice here, but it means that Claire would describe herself as more introverted than extroverted. You can also see at the bottom.
There's a really large circle in the middle. What does that tell us?
So that circle there is related to your age. So it's a bit like the first selfie where you put in your age and your height. So I can tell that Claire is maybe one of the older pupils that we've got playing today. So I think Claire might be an adult rather than one of the students.
She's older than she is tall, is that what you're saying? Okay, what do you think of this image that we're getting in here?
It's lovely. I like the art symbol matching up nicely with the sun being a morning person and the butterfly. The 3 of them work nicely together.
Fantastic. Have we got one more to look at? Oh, look at this.
Ooh.
So this one's from Connor at NWCC. And this one, we can see that their favourite colour, I think, is blue. And what else can we tell? We can tell that they were born again in winter because we've got the cold colours. But that circle in the middle, the fact that it's more up and to the left, that means that they were born near the start of the month too. So that position of that circle, that tells you where in the year it was that you were born.
Fantastic. And Connor describes themselves as a monkey, as their sort of spirit animal. So mischievous, friendly, hopefully, as well. Thank you very much, Connor, for sending us in that art. Brilliant. So we might bring up a few more at the end as we sort of play out. But first of all, before you go, as I said, it would be great if you could give us some feedback. So underneath the final selfie, there's a link to complete a short evaluation form. So please do that now. And thanks for taking part today. We've literally received hundreds of data selfies in our gallery and they're all looking brilliant.
Yep, there's some links at the bottom of the webpage if you'd like to find out more in future sessions. But for now, we have run out of time. It's just turning 12 o'clock. So it's time to thank Kate and Jen for both joining us on the stream. It was really interesting and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you to all of you data scientists for taking part today. It's bye from Craig.
Bye-bye.
And it's bye from me. Bye-bye.